And they called her Red Ribbons. She had always wore red ribbons. We used to skate in the park together. And I read in the paper that Caruso...
The night was electric, the air buzzing with the energy of an audience that had no idea they were about to witness history. Gracie Allen stepped onto the stage, her smile as radiant as ever. But behind that dazzling charm, something was terribly wrong. No one knew that she was hiding a painful secret, one that would change everything. That night wasn't just another performance. It was the beginning of the end for Hollywood's most beloved duo. Before Gracie Allen became a household name, before she and George Burns captured the hearts of millions, there was a little boy growing up in the rough streets of New York. Born Nathan Birnbaum in 1896, George Burns never knew luxury. He shared a cramped apartment with 11 siblings, his father working tirelessly as a butcher's helper, his mother taking in laundry just to put food on the table. But in those tough streets, he learned something priceless: how to make people laugh. And laughter, as he would soon discover, was more valuable than gold. From the time he was 7, George was hustling. He formed a singing group, the Pee Wee Quartet, performing on street corners and in saloons. Some days, they made a few pennies. Other days, they walked away empty-handed, or worse, had their hats stolen. But every experience, every failed performance, was shaping him. And then came the break that changed everything. A letter carrier named Lou Farley overheard the kids singing in a candy shop basement. He saw something in George, something special. That encouragement ignited a fire in young Burns, a belief that maybe, just maybe, he was meant for something bigger. As he grew older, George cycled through different stage names, each one an attempt to find the right identity. Nathan Birnbaum didn't sound like a star, so he tried Willie Delight, Pedro Lopez, Billy Pierce, and Jimmy Malone. But none of them felt quite right. Then, inspired by the coal delivery trucks he and his brothers used to scavenge from, he settled on George Burns. That name stuck, and it was under that name that he met the woman who would change his life forever. Gracie Allen wasn't looking for a comedy partner, and she certainly wasn't looking for a husband. She was thinking about leaving show business entirely, tired of the instability, ready to settle into a steady secretarial job. But fate had other plans. The moment she saw George on stage, something clicked. He had a presence, a charm that intrigued her. And when he asked her to perform with him, she hesitated. But eventually, she said yes. What happened next was nothing short of magic. Their first performance together was supposed to follow the classic formula: George as the funny man, Gracie as the straight woman. But something unexpected happened. The audience didn't laugh at George's jokes. Instead, they erupted in laughter at Gracie's deadpan delivery, her unintentional wit stealing the spotlight. George was confused at first, but then he realized the truth. Gracie wasn't the sidekick. She was the star. And in that moment, George made a decision that would define their career. He stepped back, letting Gracie take center stage. His role became simple: ask Gracie a question, let her talk, and watch the audience fall in love with her. The act took off. Their chemistry was undeniable, their humor effortless. And soon, what started as a working relationship turned into something more. They spent every waking moment together, and after 3 years, they made it official, marrying on January 27, 1926. At the time, they weren't famous yet, but that was about to change. Vaudeville was just the beginning. As radio grew in popularity, so did George and Gracie. Their show, The Burns and Allen Show, became a national sensation. People couldn't get enough of Gracie's nonsensical logic, like when she lost $40 gambling but insisted she had actually won $10 because she expected to lose $50. It didn't make sense, but somehow it made perfect sense. Hollywood soon came calling, and with it, an opportunity that would catapult them to an entirely new level of fame. They transitioned from radio to television, bringing their beloved act to screens across America. Their show was a hit, cementing them as one of Hollywood's golden couples. But behind the laughter, behind the adoring fans and the glamorous lights, something was wrong. Gracie Allen was struggling. The woman who had built a career on quick wit and endless energy was running out of both. And yet, she kept going, determined to deliver the performance that audiences expected. But the truth was, every night their seamless partnership didn't just thrive on stage, it became part of their real lives. Their comedic timing mirrored their personal bond, and when they portrayed a married couple in their performances, it wasn't just an act. Audiences saw something real, something rare. They built a family together, adopting 2 children, Ronnie and Sandra, while balancing a life in the spotlight. Their breakthrough came in 1927, when they signed with the prestigious Keith Albee Orpheum Vaudeville Circuit. This wasn't just another performance contract, it was their golden ticket. Touring across the country, they went from performing in small-town theaters to becoming headline acts in major cities. The chemistry between them was undeniable, their humor effortless. By 1931, they were among vaudeville's elite, sharing stages with legends like Eddie Cantor and George Jessel, proving they had what it took to captivate audiences at the highest level. Then came radio. In 1929, Burns and Allen found themselves in a BBC studio in London, their voices ready to be broadcasted to an audience unlike any they had faced before. Radio was a different beast. No lights, no costumes, no live audience. It all came down to their voices. Would their signature brand of humor, built for American vaudeville crowds, resonate with British listeners? The answer was a resounding yes. Their routine remained the same. George as the straight man, Gracie with her delightfully absurd logic. But their reach expanded. British audiences fell for Gracie's unique comedic style just as deeply as American crowds had. It was proof that their act had universal appeal. When they returned to the United States in 1930, they were ready for the next step. They auditioned for NBC Radio, but network executives dismissed them, doubting their ability to translate to the airwaves. It seemed like a devastating setback. But then, fate intervened. Gracie was invited to guest star on Eddie Cantor's hit radio show. Within minutes of stepping up to the microphone, she had the audience roaring with laughter. George wasn't even there, and yet she stole the show. That performance was all it took to change their fate. Soon after, Burns and Allen landed a spot on the Fleischmann's Yeast Hour, hosted by Rudy Vallee, one of the biggest radio programs of the time. The audience response was overwhelming. Their rejection from NBC no longer mattered. The listeners had spoken. Burns and Allen belonged on the air. By 1932, they were regulars on The Guy Lombardo Show on CBS. Lombardo was a household name in music, and adding Burns and Allen's comedy to his program gave the show a new dimension. They adapted quickly, refining their comedic timing, mastering the art of radio humor. Their ability to evolve made them radio sensations. Then, in 1934, they took the ultimate leap. Burns and Allen launched their own radio show, The Adventures of Gracie. This wasn't just a milestone, it was a cultural shift. They had officially transitioned from vaudeville performers to radio stars. The show changed names over the years, but the heart of it remained the same. Gracie's brilliantly absurd logic and George's perfectly timed reactions. One of their most famous comedic stunts started before their show had even officially launched. In 1933, Gracie appeared on air claiming she was searching for her lost brother. It was a running gag that spilled across multiple radio programs. She interrupted broadcasts, popping up on different shows, asking hosts and guests if they had seen him. It was comedic gold, not just because it was funny, but because it made audiences feel like they were in on the joke. As the years passed, the show evolved. At first, it carried a vaudeville-style energy, with rapid-fire jokes and quick exchanges. But by the early 1940s, they noticed their audience was changing. The people who had once packed vaudeville theaters were growing older, and their tastes were shifting. Burns and Allen adapted again. Instead of just delivering a variety show full of standalone jokes, they transformed their program into something more structured, a sitcom-style format that followed a married couple navigating everyday life. Of course, in Gracie's world, everyday life was anything but ordinary. The shift paid off. The show stayed fresh. The audience kept growing. Supporting characters like announcer Bill Goodwin and their fictional neighbors Harry and Blanche Morton added depth to the storytelling. But at its core, the show remained all about George and Gracie. Their dynamic was as charming as ever. Week after week, they delivered laughs, keeping America entertained through war, economic hardship, and societal change. By the time their show wrapped up in 1958, George Burns and Gracie Allen had cemented themselves as legends in the entertainment world. Their journey to that point had been anything but easy. Starting in vaudeville, dominating radio for decades, and finally transitioning to television, they managed to master every medium they touched. But what really set them apart? They understood the power of reinvention, a skill that not every radio star could grasp when television came knocking. Many struggled, some faded into obscurity. Yet Burns and Allen adapted in a way that made their humor timeless. October 12, 1950, was a defining moment. The George Burns and Gracie Allen Show premiered on CBS, and the television landscape would never be the same. At first, it wasn't a sure bet. Some believed their humor wouldn't translate from radio to the screen, but they proved everyone wrong. Their comedic chemistry, their unique storytelling approach, and their undeniable charm captivated audiences. What made the show truly special? George Burns breaking the fourth wall. Unlike other sitcoms, where characters stayed within their fictional world, George would step out of the scene, look directly into the camera, and let the audience in on the joke. It was fresh, it was different, and it made viewers feel like they were part of something personal. The show ran for 8 seasons, producing 291 episodes. Initially airing live every other Thursday, CBS quickly realized they had a hit on their hands. By the 3rd season, it became a weekly series, joining I Love Lucy on Monday nights. This was the golden era of television, and Burns and Allen were at the forefront. Their show became a staple of American households, shaping the way sitcoms were structured for years to come. The humor was smart, the characters were lovable, and Gracie Allen's delightfully unpredictable logic turned even the most mundane situations into comedic gold. Behind the scenes, George Burns wasn't just a performer. He was a mastermind. He worked closely with writer Paul Henning, a man who would later create legendary sitcoms like The Beverly Hillbillies and Green Acres. Burns understood that great comedy wasn't just about delivering punchlines, it was about crafting moments. Every scene, every joke, every bit of dialogue was carefully structured to feel natural, yet effortlessly hilarious. That attention to detail is what made the show endure, long after it aired its final episode. One of Burns's biggest innovations was how the show was filmed. Unlike many sitcoms that relied on artificial laughter, he insisted on real audience reactions. Episodes were screened for test audiences, and their genuine laughter was recorded and mixed into the final broadcast. If a joke didn't land, Burns adjusted the timing until it did. This commitment to authenticity made the show's humor feel organic rather than forced. Moving from live performances to pre-recorded episodes was another game changer. Initially filmed in New York's Mansfield Theater, the production moved to Hollywood after 6 episodes, a bold move that set a precedent for the future of television. CBS recognized California as the industry's future, and Burns and Allen became one of the first major CBS shows to make the transition. It gave them more control, allowing for better production quality and ensuring their comedic timing was always on point. But, as the years passed, something became clear. Gracie Allen was ready to step away. She had been performing since childhood, moving from vaudeville to radio, to film, to television. By the time their show premiered, she had already spent most of her life in the spotlight. She loved making people laugh, but the demanding schedule of a weekly television series was exhausting. George, ever the performer, was still passionate about the craft, but Gracie had other dreams. Their on-screen home wasn't just a set, it was an extension of their real lives. The house depicted on the show was modeled after their actual Beverly Hills residence. Even a painting in their library, Dooryard Elm by Robert Strong Woodward, was part of both their home and the set. This blending of reality and fiction made the show feel intimate, like an invitation into their world. One of the show's most memorable running gags involved a closet overflowing with hats. Guests would visit, get caught up in Gracie's hilariously illogical conversations, and leave so quickly they forgot their hats. It was a simple joke, but it was symbolic of what made the show work. It felt lived in, real, and endlessly charming. When the show ended, it wasn't just the close of a series, it was the end of an era. Gracie Allen retired, stepping away from the spotlight, while George Burns continued performing, finding success in stand-up and film well into his later years. He never stopped entertaining. Even after Gracie's passing, he kept her memory alive, often speaking about her with deep love and admiration. Her comedic brilliance hinged on precision. Every word, every pause had to be perfect. Unlike George, who could ad-lib with ease, she had no such luxury. The pressure mounted, and with it, so did her health struggles. The migraines she had battled for years worsened. Even after suffering a broken nose, she continued performing. Nothing kept her away from the spotlight, except the one thing she couldn't fight: her own body's limits. Through the 1950s, her health declined. Heart issues became impossible to ignore. She had already pushed past minor heart attacks and recurring chest pains, always putting the show first. But in 1958, she made a decision that shocked Hollywood. She walked away. CBS pleaded with her to reconsider. The show was still a hit, and executives saw no reason for it to end. But Gracie had made up her mind. She filmed her last episode with quiet dignity. No emotional farewell, no grand goodbye. She simply finished the job, thanked her colleagues, and left. For the first time in decades, she was free. Retirement gave her the peaceful life she had always wanted. She spent her days tending to her garden, away from cameras and scripts. Public appearances became rare, and though she remained supportive of George's career, she never returned to performing. Her health continued to decline, but she stayed out of the public eye, determined to enjoy her time away from the industry that had once consumed her life. George, however, wasn't ready to step back. He attempted to keep the magic alive with the George Burns Show, but it was doomed from the start. The audience had loved their dynamic. their chemistry. Without Gracie, there was no spark. The show struggled to find its footing and was quietly canceled after just one season. Gracie's final years were spent in quiet seclusion. But Hollywood never forgot her. Then, on August 27, 1964, the world lost one of its brightest comedic stars. She suffered a fatal heart attack, passing away at Cedars of Lebanon Hospital in Los Angeles at the age of 69. Even in her final days, she remained strong, attending events and maintaining the warmth and charm that had made her beloved. Her funeral was private, attended only by close friends and family, a reflection of the quiet life she had chosen after fame. George, devastated by the loss, made sure her resting place carried a simple yet powerful inscription: "Together again." It was a promise, a testament to the bond they had shared, a love story that transcended life itself. Gracie's death left George in a state of grief he never fully recovered from. He visited her grave every day, carrying her wedding ring in his pocket. He had lost not just a partner, but a piece of himself. For a while, he drifted, unsure of what came next. But eventually, he turned to the only thing he had ever known: performance. This time, he was alone on stage, a different kind of entertainer. He spoke directly to the audience, leaning into his own charm and wit, rather than playing the straight man. And surprisingly, people loved it. He wasn't just surviving, he was thriving in an unexpected second act. Then, at 79 years old, a twist of fate changed everything. Jack Benny had been set to star in The Sunshine Boys, a film about two aging vaudeville performers. But when illness forced Benny to step down, George stepped in. The world had written him off as a relic of the past, but when the film hit theaters, critics and audiences alike saw something extraordinary. George Burns was more than just an old comedian. He was a star, still as sharp, still as brilliant as ever. The performance won him an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, making him one of the oldest winners in Oscar history. Just like that, he was back. That success reignited his career. Offers poured in. He starred in the hit film Oh, God, and became a household name once more. Decades after first stepping onto the stage, he was proving that some stars never fade. In his final years, he remained active, performing, making appearances, and ensuring that the legacy of Burns and Allen endured. When he finally passed at 100 years old, he had fulfilled the promise engraved on Gracie's crypt. In death, as in life, they were together again. The laughter they brought to the world remains timeless, their influence stretching across generations. Even today, their unique brand of comedy serves as a blueprint for entertainers who dare to break the mold. They weren't just pioneers, they were legends, and legends never truly fade away.